Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Dyson. Now, of course, the OJ Simpson parole hearing was broadcast live on many networks, including ESPN yesterday. Our Twitter feeds were flush with OJ reaction. Why is America still so fascinated with OJ Simpson?
Well, I think, first of all, he's an incredibly powerful, gifted, and influential athlete. One must remember that when O.J. Simpson emerged in America, racial tension was at one of its peaks. The inability of the races to come together was put before us, and O.J. was seen as one of the first black superstars. As the novelist Ralph Ellison said, he, with slithering grace, moved beyond lines and in between and outside of linebackers and people trying to defend him and defeat him. So physically, he was a spectacle. And then beyond that, he was one of the first great pitchmen in America, along with Bill Cosby, to represent interests economically and financially, not only to African-American people, but to white America, to broker an acceptance of African-American people to a broader white audience. And then thirdly, he was a racial phenomenon because he was not a dangerous black man. He was not Jim Brown. He was not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then Louis Alcindor. He was not seen as a politically active black man who was motivated by interest in his own people and commitment to his own community to carry the water for them. So he was seen as a race-transcending figure. When you put all of that together, when O.J. was seen as the source of something nefarious, the potential murder of two people that he was alleged to have committed, and then, of course, finally acquitted for, but most of America believed, no, this guy was dangerous and also guilty, and the contradiction between his ideal as a representative of a race-transcending figure on the one hand and O.J. seen as a murderer on the other hand endlessly fascinates the collective unconscious of America and stimulates us to think about how much racial progress have we truly made. And O.J. Simpson's case, you will remember, in the mid-90s, represented the attempt of African-American people to say that the criminal justice system has been inveterately unfair to African-American people, and now this machinery comes along, that is O.J. Simpson and his case, to make a point that black people have been trying to make for decades before. All of that, I think, occasions endless fascination with O.J., and when you saw him yesterday, as I did, as millions of people around the country and indeed around the world saw him, that smooth chocolate skin, that charismatic figure, but also people who were thinking about the deleterious and nefarious things that he had been accused of doing, saw the essential contradiction, and that's what continues to fascinate America. You've got an award-winning documentary that was put out and a teleplay on television on Fox that was put out because America, in the last year, because America is still fascinated with what he represents about race in this country.
Hey, Dr. Dyson, do you think that in the black community that we expended that much political capital on O.J. Simpson when it was clear that he wasn't really trying to be a part of what we call the cause, trying to uplift the black community? Do you think there's a sense of regret in expending that political capital during that time in the 90s?
Well, I think not really, because here's the point. Black people knew that O.J. wasn't invested in our community to the degree that other athletes were. Even recently on his album, Jay-Z on 444 said, O.J. say, "I'm not black, I'm O.J." Okay, so we already knew that O.J. was not invested in that way, but that has nothing to do with the fact that regardless of his intention, his existential investment in African-American communities, his political representation of black interests, that regardless of that, he became a symbol and a carrier for the argument that the criminal justice system had often looked the other way and not dealing in a very particularly healthy and helpful way to African-American people. So regardless of his personal stakes, black people saw that a larger message was put forth.
Okay, Dr. Dyson, that's fascinating. So let's pick up on that. You talked about the racial disconnect in this country starting within the 1960s in reference to O.J.'s role. Here's the thing. You point out that O.J. became a symbol for the injustices, the racial injustice in the criminal justice system. I certainly understand the value of symbols. I've been on this program talking about how it became offensive to me how Colin Kaepernick treated a symbol in the American flag to further a message. I understand that symbols have important roles and symbols have useful ways of communicating messages. But the thing about symbols is they're messy. They're inaccurate, right? They are inherently simplistic. That's the whole point. Let's take something complicated and make it really, really short and digestible. The problem, and I think this is part of our racial disconnect, is OJ doesn't fit as the symbol of the racial injustices in the criminal justice system. When you look at the facts, and for many people, regardless of race, when you look at the facts of OJ's 1990s case or the incidences around this, you go, but look at this case. Look at these facts. Look at OJ. And then you go, how is this the symbol? And we seem to be having very, very different conversations from that point forward.
No, it's a great point. Symbolic expressions are inherently messy, as you say, but they also serve a more political utility in the broader landscape, especially when the races are conflicted. You just pointed out something about OJ that many people miss. That is to suggest that he was not a perfect symbol, but this is what Black America was trying to say, if you will, collectively to white America. Right? We have been, but it's a bad symbol because white people refuse to see the good symbols. Martin Luther King Jr. was murdered. Malcolm X was mowed down, arguably within his own community. Medgar Evers was cut down in, you talking about the 1960s, in Mississippi. So the murderers of Medgar Evers and Emmett Till got away cold with murder. So the notion that somebody who could get away with murder existed in America didn't begin with OJ, number one. Number two, what's interesting here is that when Black people said these are serious issues that need to be dealt with, white America did not hear us, but they heard us with OJ. Why? Because OJ was seen as a white Black man. OJ was accepted within arenas of white America that Black people could never symbolically or literally darken. So the point is, he was the perfect symbol for white people to finally get the kind of agony, the kind of grief, the kind of serious injustice that they perceived was going on with OJ because they knew he was guilty and yet he got away with murder. Welcome to the world of Black people in America, where time and again we have tried to make that argument, but America has been incapable of hearing that.
Okay.
That's why OJ was an especially effective and powerful messenger for this particular issue.